Well, I want to get the view of Brad Bowman now. He is the Senior Director of the Centre on Military and Political Power at the Foundation for Defence of Democracies. He's also a former Black Hawk helicopter pilot himself. Brad, as always, great to have you on the programme. As we were just discussing, the UK has now joined the United States in sending over those rocket launchers. There's been so much about this, really, since the beginning of the war, discussing whether these kinds of weapons would be appropriate. Something's changed here. What do you think that calculation was?
Thanks for the opportunity to join you. Thanks for the question. I think what has changed is the nature of the combat has evolved. You know, after Putin bit off more than he could chew, if you will, and going for Kyiv and launching armored columns not supported by artillery or infantry, we've seen them kind of downsize their ambitions and really just focus on the Donbass region, Donetsk and Luhansk. And that region has a different topography that is more conducive to artillery warfare. So we're seeing an artillery duel in that region that is brutal. We've seen the Russians making incremental gains. And we see in many cases the Ukrainians are outranged and outgunned. And so they've been asking for these longer range artillery systems for quite some time. And now the U.S. announced last week they would be providing the high mobility artillery rocket systems, or HIMARS, which will roughly double the range over the towed artillery the U.S. had already provided. And now the British are saying that they'll want to provide also, as your team has reported, the multiple launch rocket system. Both that and the HIMARS will roughly double the range that the Ukrainians have in terms of artillery inventory.
Talking about that then, talking about doubling the range, I mean, these weapons have been characterised as attack weapons as opposed to defensive ones. And Putin has been saying that if they come from countries like the UK, like the US, he's been trying to couch that as saying these countries then are directly involved. So do you think that could potentially lead from Russia's side to an escalation at this moment? Is this a pivotal moment in this conflict?
Well, you know, Putin can always escalate, but let's remember where we are. This is the largest invasion in Europe since World War II. You know, we hear Foreign Minister Lavrov talking about the sovereignty of Russia. Excuse me, what about the sovereignty of Ukraine? Right? This is really Russian gall at its what we've long come to see. Ukraine has a right to defend itself. The MLRS system, the multiple launch rocket system, the HIMARS systems that the U.S. are providing, these are going to be targeting the tens of thousands of invading Russian forces in Ukraine. So for Putin to suggest that this is a threat to Russia in any way is ridiculous, and I think should be seen as such.
Briefly, if you don't mind, Brad, in terms of having these weapons, putting them into the equation, how do they change things on the ground? Could we see a recalibration from the Ukrainians, or do you predict instead that the Russians might just go even harder?
The primary benefit of these weapons is they increase the range of Ukrainian forces. They provide them additional precision, more agility and mobility, and more survivability. And all of those things will help impact the balance of power between the Russian and Ukrainian forces as Ukraine fights this unprovoked invasion and defends their homes.
All right, Brad Bowman, Senior Director of the Centre on Military and Political Power at the Foundation for Defence of Democracies. Pleasure to talk to you. Thank you.